So I grew up skiing in Durango,
All
Colorado.
right,
Have you
all right.
skied Purgatory?
I have, I have.
So is it not the greatest resort? I feel
It
like it's got the spirit of skiing.
it is what Aspen used to be. So I was born there in Aspen, and we didn't have any paved streets. I'm old, um, but as the town developed, and now it's just crazy. And like even my dad moved out, and he moved over to Ridgeway when he retired, kind of over Telluride area, just because Aspen got so weird. But it's a great town. Love skiing there, but Purgatory's a blast. There's not very many. I've been in the ski industry for most of my career until socks, which I kind of am with our ski line. But there's very few mountains that I haven't skied, particularly in Colorado, but across the country and in Europe too. When we were working with a couple other brands.
Yeah.
Um,
And I remember as a kid, you'd clamp down your ski boot.
uh,
And of course, we don't know, but you're clamping down that artery on top of the foot.
100% right in the navicular, right, the navicular
Yeah.
bone, which is right there, um, which is exactly why you're. It's so counterintuitive to comfort and to warmth,
Yeah,
because
it
you
just
are clamping that down.
yeah, it just
Uh,
crushes it.
when I was with Albello, we worked hard on that. I was like, how do we compensate for the navicular? Why we went to a three buckle boot, and there's a lot of different things you can do with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, you're crushing, depending whether what kind of sock you have, but you're crushing the cushioning by cranking down on that. And again, that's right over. I had this discussion with Johnny Mosley last year at a ski show about just about that, about the navicular, and when you're pushing down on that, how that cuts off blood, cuts off circulation. Um, you know, and most racers or guys of his caliber, they're wearing boots that are super super tight,
Yeah.
right? And they don't want any of that energy to be absorbed by either the sock or by anything else. But it's such a quick run for them. They're not skiing all day. They're just cranking down for their run, whether it's a downhill in 3 minutes or a slalom in a minute. So
And we'd get on the lift, and I know my dad, he'd flip his pole upside down and he'd lift the buckle and he'd
yeah,
unbuckle his boots.
yeah,
And I'm just like, what is he doing?
yeah,
And he's like, oh, it feels so much better. And he never could even communicate what was actually happening. Like, oh, yeah, there's all the science and I'm letting the blood flow and everything. Hunters are different because we will crank down the laces, but it's nowhere near the pressure that a ski boot will do. But I am seeing guys absolutely CrossFit their way into their boot, and it's like pretty intense. And so I think that's where Darn Tough has really come in and done a strong job. But talk to me about those early days. I mean, is entering the sock market kind of daunting a little bit?
it was brutal and fun. I like to say that the stories of the brand is as good as the socks, and as I'm pretty biased, but the socks are pretty dang amazing. But the story, the world told us that we didn't need another performance merino wool sock, and there was one out there that was really good, and it took the world by surprise, frankly. The old traditional socks, the companies that were there didn't see them coming. And then we came along and they said, we don't need another one. And frankly and thankfully, we didn't listen to them. We knew we had to be different, right, to come out there, which is, the part where it got interesting is where even when we started, it was tough going. And we had already had the mill. Rick's dad, Rick Cabot, and his dad, Mark Cabot, had already been running this socks, but we were doing private label for a lot of other companies. And then as that started going offshore, Rick had to make a decision. He was either, as he said, it was either that or go work for his wife in real estate. And so he came up with the brand. He came up with the brand name, which was, kind of a double entendre between the Darn Tough and darning your sock and all that.
Yeah.
Um,
Where did
but
that name come from? I mean, I get it. It's like, oh, it's tough, but like, why
and
darn?
because of the darn, because you do, I don't, many people don't know when you resew a sock, you're darning it. It's called darning your sock.
What?
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
that's a thing.
yeah. That's what in the old days when you went to get your sock repaired, or if you were fixing your sock because it had a hole in it, you were darning your sock.
You were darning your
Yeah.
dude. You just like changed my childhood, man. You changed every. I've been in darn tough socks for 10, 15 years. I mean, however long you guys have gone. I've skied in them. I've hunted in them. I just thought you were like trying to not swear and be like, they're super tough.
Yeah, no,
Work.
it was a little double entendre there, but Rick came up with it. Rick was,
That is
you know,
so cool.
in his in his house in Stowe, and he was
Okay.
like, we got to do something, and he came up with the name. He came up with the concept. Probably the biggest key of that though was that we needed to set ourselves apart, and that's where the unconditional lifetime guarantee came in, and it still holds true today. Um, Nobody was doing it at that time. Nobody was talking about comfort, fit, and durability. And certainly nobody had an unconditional lifetime guarantee. And man, in the beginning, it was people were like, you know, what is lifetime? Your lifetime or the lifetime of the sock? And we're like, you know, the answer would be yes, right? And we'd be at outdoor retailer, and even retailers would be coming in going. And we were in a tiny little booth at the beginning, and
Yeah.
retailers were like, what are you doing? What do you mean unconditional lifetime guarantee? But we knew we had to be different, and we meant it, and we knew that we knit differently. We didn't do it for some algorithm like, oh, a certain number of people aren't going to exercise that option.
Yeah,
We
you
weren't
did
that.
some big data
No,
analysis.
dude, we weren't that smart, frankly. We were like, heck, we got to be different. We knew that we knit differently because you couldn't have one without the other, because if you knit poorly and less dense, which is kind of the key to how we knit, then you'd be out there replacing socks all the time. You know, you remember your grandfather's socks, right? Those rag wool socks. You could walk through those in an afternoon and put a hole in them because they were knit so loosely. But that was kind of the comfort thing of rag wool. It was trying to do the same thing, which is, trap that dead airspace, but it was knit so loose that you could walk through it. What Rick came up with was how to do it more dense, and that's kind of the key to our brand is the density of our terry loops. There's like 1,441 stitches per square inch.
Holy.
Okay, so
You
that's
feel
where,
this sock, it's like hefty. Like when you fill it
yeah,
off the rack, it's like
yeah,
it it's just not a sock. It's like armor.
it is, and it's a piece of equipment, and that's where we some people are like, oh, socks are a commodity, and some socks are. Your bag of socks are a commodity that you can get at certain retailers. We look at it as a piece of equipment. We certainly do, which kind of dovetails into kind of continuation of that start of the brand, was that part of our early success was with the special ops community. So they've been with us, or we've been with them, I think probably 16, 17 years now. And we've learned from them, certainly, like most brands do. Anybody that kind of sells to that group of people,
Sure.
that they learn from that, and then they kind of take that to the civilian side, and that's kind of what we did. And certainly some of the socks, that new sock that you just might have just had up, that was the 2112, I think it is. That not that one. There's a newer one, but it was. We took a lot of what we learned from that community and applied that to that sock. So they certainly helped in the beginning of what we were doing, trying to come up with the brand. But again, the people, nobody listened to us. We were irreverent. We were kind of weird. We were this little brand in Vermont that
Yeah.
nobody had heard of. And as we like to say, yeah, I mean, it's different. We would have gotten killed. I'm kind of backtracking, sorry, but we would have gotten killed from a return policy or from our returns if we knit crappy socks. So we knew that if we knit good socks, we're not going to have a big return. And I think it's still less than 1% return rate after 20 years.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
What?
yeah,
Less than what?
yeah. I think it was 0.008. something like that. I should have known that offhand, but it's tiny. It did grow a little bit for a while, so that's kind of where our checks and balances come. We knew that it was growing a little bit, but that's because we were selling to a wider community.
Yeah,
When
you're
you sell to a wider community, you do have guys that are going to take advantage of it that maybe that core group didn't necessarily take advantage of it. So it grew a little bit, but that's kind of our check. Like if that's going up, then we've got to figure out what it is. Rick used to look at every single sock that came in, every sock to go, okay, why are we getting a wear point here? And he would, it might be one course, like underneath the performance, which most people would call that arch support area. There might be one course different. We add another course and it changes how the sock performed.
And so it's just a flywheel of he probably is like, yeah, send me the sock back.
Oh, he does.
I want to
100%.
beat this up too
Yes.
because you're flywheeling. You're not just like, oh, whatever. It's a pretty good sock. We'll live with 1%
Yeah.
and move on.
No, he's very as he should be. Like this is this the thing is we're not, we don't answer to anybody. We're a privately, he owns it, his dad owns it,
Yeah.
and we just want to make the best product out there. And in the 20 years, certainly we've had, ebbs and flows, but we almost got kicked out of a couple retailers, but saved it, and now we're their number one retailer and one vendor of the year.
Yeah.
A couple times. So
So, like, has there been temptations over the years with how the success is done, the strength of the brand? I mean, again, back to Durango, Colorado. I'll walk down that street. I'll drop in a Brown shoe store,
Yep.
like
Yeah.
classic, right? And
Yep.
it's just like darn tough. It's like,
Yeah.
man, is there been temptation over the years of like, oh, let's break into other categories, let's do some other things? Like, what is
Yeah,
that?
we get asked all the time to do base layer, right? And that just wouldn't work in our world of we are really proud that we're knit not just in America, because a lot of good socks are knit in America, but we're knit in Vermont. And for us to go into a base layer thing, we would want to do it if we ever did, which we don't. We like to say we do one thing and do it really well. But if we did, it would have to be in Vermont, and then you're just not competitive. Now I've got to do a cut and sew operation in Vermont. Yeah, I mean that's nuts. We're looking at could we be doing like beanies and fun things like that? Sure, and we look at it, but we don't want to take our eyes off socks. We have become the number one brand in a couple categories because we focus just on socks. We live, breathe it. We don't change. We don't look at other things. Categorically, we still haven't changed. We've modified a few, like in the run and in the bike. We used to call them run bike. Then we separated them to run and bike, and then we brought them back together. So we've kind of modified that kind of things over the years as far as categories, but
Yeah.
we've still stuck to the basics. What do we have? 7,
It's
and
There's this saying I really enjoy. It's do less and obsess.
yeah, totally. I might write that one down. I might use that one. I'll footnote you there.
Because that's even when I look at your branding and 1% too, just for listeners, like that is pretty remarkable because in clothing, you're generally operating off 8 to 10%. So when you're in that soft garment, like a non-hard good, right? That's awesome. No, I love that. And it just shows the prowess of like why this conversation is so important. For bow hunters, my number one episode is episode 4. It's early on and it still gets downloads to this day. And it's what bow, what arrows, what broadhead should you buy? It's fun to buy new skis. It's fun to buy a new bow. It's fun to buy new boots, right? All this gear, backpacks. And what's funny is I really got on this narrative, and I'm glad darn tough we can have this conversation. Is like the first thing you do when you get out of your truck when you go hunting, you step on the ground, and that's just you're not going to kill something from the couch. That's our funny little saying there. And you're on the trail 25 30,000 steps, you're cranking. That's a given. You might not even pull your bow back. It doesn't matter what bow you have or what backpack, you may not even utilize it. But your feet is everything. So tell me, like someone transitioning out of cotton, I mean, talk to me about like let's just take a step back. What is cotton doing to your skin when you're hoofing or skiing or like there's still people who use cotton.
Yeah. Now there was definitely a place for cotton socks. There are, they are very comfortable. It has been proven over the years that comfort it doesn't wear as well,
Yeah.
but it's certainly comfortable. What it doesn't do is wick moisture, right? And so that was why we chose merino. Other people had done it a little bit, but merino, to us, it's the best fiber you can use because of the fact that it's antimicrobial. Sheep have been running around in these things for 10,000 years, right? And they're good in the rain and the snow and the wet. And that's why we chose it. We do a couple synthetics, but only like we do a couple in run and a couple in hike. And that's for those people that are truly like allergic to merino. And even that, I usually say, are you really, or do you just don't like the itch, right? Because they think it's going to be grandpa's kind of itchy wool sock. But again, cotton is a great fiber for certain things, just not for anything athletic like that.
Yeah. My wife and I joke about how I love wool. Like
Yep.
I'm a Pendleton
Yep.
blanket,
Yep.
like wrap. I do an ice bath every day, twice
Nice.
a day generally.
Nice.
And I wrap up in that thing. I slip on my thickest darn tufts,
Yeah.
and I let my body naturally warm up. It's just my comfort. She's like, "Oh, it's so itchy," and I'm like, "But I've gotten into her like base layers. I got her
God.
the darn tough socks, and she's like, "Okay, I'm getting it. I get it now." And I'm like, "It's not itchy, like but it's powerful.
It
So
is.
that water stays. It's not wicking on cotton. It's just you're hot. It's
Yeah,
rubbing.
100%. And you've seen, we've done tests where like you weigh a sock, you wear a cotton sock, and you wear a merino sock, one of our socks, and then go hiking or whatever. And in particularly when it's warm, when you're trying to create a lot of moisture, and the sock is is incrementally more heavy, that cotton sock just absorbs it, and that merino sock it wicks it away. And it's antimicrobial. And that, again, going back to kind of the special ops guys,
Yeah.
you don't have to wash. And I think Rick's gone probably 40 days. I've gone 20 at least with one pair of socks, testing them out. They don't smell. They don't get crunchy. You don't have to wash them every day. And that's kind of where, again, getting back to the guys that are wearing them, in other applications for the community that we were talking about before, where it's really important to them.
Yeah.
That's kind of, again, where we learned that from. So we picked merino, and I'll give you a quick funny story. In the 1850s, Vermont was the merino capital of the world. And most of the timber was down. There wasn't a lot of trees in Vermont because it was all being used for shipping and building homes and all that stuff. And it became the merino capital of the world. We sent one ram and one ewe. I can't remember their names. I have a book somewhere that talks about what sheep we sent to New Zealand. And eventually they became the merino capital of the world. They bred the wrinkliness out of the merino, out of the sheep, for better yield. And but we still like to say that the lineage still goes back to Vermont. So even if we're buying their yarn from there, their ancestors all came from Vermont. So,
That is so cool.
yeah,
So truly like Vermont head to toe,
yeah,
no pun intended.
and it's important, man. That's why Rick, these people that that work for us and work, they go to work at 30 below, 3 shifts and they're as darn tough as the socks are. They really are. I mean, you go and they take a lot of pride. I there are times I'm really bummed that they don't get to hear what I get to hear. That you walk into the SHOT Show, right, which is an amazing show for us to go to. But if you ever want to get jazzed on the brand, that's the show, because you'll get entire SWAT teams from Denver or Salt Lake or whatever will come in and they all pull their pants up and they're like, dude, I got them on.
Yeah.
And that's that cult-like thing that Darn Tough has. and we call it the PL, the pant leg pull, and it's a real thing. People will walk. I had a buddy of mine that was wearing a hat in the Cape. He's a Colorado guy,
Yeah.
and he was out and he called me. He goes, "What is with your brand?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "People are walking up to me, pulling up their pants just because he had the same hat that you have on." And I was like, "Yeah, that's the pant leg pull." Yeah, SHOT Show's one of them because when you have all of the military side there plus all the hunters there,
Yeah.
and they walk into the booth and man, they are all showing off their sock.
All in. So I got to be careful wearing this hat out in
Yep,
public.
you do.
I
You
might get
do.
a little ankle. I'll be like,
You might get the PLP. Exactly.
honey, just calm down. It just, it's all good. Well, let's share that we are doing a giveaway for you listeners. So make sure you don't want to miss out on this. Here's what I've got. This is a sick giveaway we're doing. I've got two heavyweights. I've got an over the calf and then a boot sock. Then I've got an over the calf midweight and a boot sock in a midweight. So I've got four amazing pairs. I've got some swag that we'll include as well. And I'm going to dig up some other stuff. I've got some things in the gear closet. We're going to post this on Instagram, lay it all out. But darn tough, super stoked to have you as a partner because this is years and years worth of hunting socks. And I think what's interesting too is I found a pair of socks. I know they're more than 10 years old. And one thing I noticed, and it's funny how, these products that we use all the time and we swear by, I've got a North Face duffel. I've got a Black Diamond rope bag for rock climbing. They're over 25 years old and the YKK zippers are just, so it's funny when we're like recommending products and it's like, yeah, they're so great and so comfortable. But man, you shed that influencer Kim Kardashian crap and it's like, no. I've had this for 10 years. Like, and so I pulled this sock out and I can't find it, but it kept its form. Tell me about it keeping its form. Is that just the high density of
That's
stitch?
the high density knitting because it can't splay like when even in the cushioning, they can't splay out because it's knit so dense.
Man.
And that's kind of the trick because it does love to have you to the mill some point if you come out that way. But the shape of the sock, the knitting, it keeps it because of the density. It can't, no, I don't want to say unravel, but it can't loosen up and go into a different shape because of the density. And that goes to whatever weight you're talking about. And it was cool that you have a couple different weights there because, the beauty of you guys as hunters and the fact that it's really a diverse, although our line is pretty tight, very tight, it's only 6 models, but we look to you guys to go, okay, what is it that we need? Because you're doing, first you've got whether you're doing, tree stand or humping it out there. And I mean, I think more guys learn your footwear now is like, even, let's take away the rubber boot crowd, but in the guys that are really moving, your footwear is as good or is better than most hike brands, right? Because and they come from because what you guys are doing are basically hikers with a weapon, right? And so, yeah, but doing a lot of it, particularly when you're out there and you're tracking and doing all your stuff. So you've got your tree stand, then you've got your the guys they're actively moving, and then on top of that, you got to pull in whether you're doing early season, whether you're or let's say early season if you're doing turkey in the spring or early season bow versus dead of winter, really freaking cold. So we've got to be able to come up with all of that, but also keep the line tight. Could we do more socks and more lines? Yeah, but that'd be knitting for the sake of knitting, right? We think we've hit it with what the group that we have.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, on my desk here, I'm like, yep, this is it. And a lightweight, which I'm wearing because I gotta dress to impress. I can't pull my leg. I'll fall over.
You'll pull.
It'll be awkward.
Pull a hammy. For me, I'd pull something. So we're good.
But that's what's interesting here too, is it's not like, so hunters, when we talk arrows, there's 4 different sizes of this and weights. And you weigh this and it's like tinker, 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 tinker. And it's like, dude, I'll be honest with you. I've killed deer with a Walmart arrow for
Yep.
$4.99.
Yep.
I have.
Yep.
And it was an awesome experience. And you increase, right? Like your first pair of skis is not your latest pair of skis. Totally understand that. But what's cool with socks is you invest in it, you just get that system, and you don't have to think about it again. And that's what I like about this and why I've just stuck with it is I'm like, yeah, it's darn tough. And I've dipped out and I've tried other socks and I'm like, oh, a footwear company came out with this sock. Oh, cool. Like, let me try it. And it, after one hike, it's not even that long. I'm like, no, got to go back. And I had double knee surgery this spring. Oh, man.
Like both knees at the same time.
Yeah, it was a buy one, get one free deal.
Most
No,
people
I
don't
just
even allow. Most docs don't even do that anymore.
they were just clean outs. They were
Okay.
kind of
All right.
they weren't the rebuilds.
Yeah. Okay.
But it was, I call it surgery because I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
you cut me open. All right.
Yeah. It might only be an incision that. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
open.
it
Yeah.
counts. And
Yeah.
so like my feet are like he's like, you can go hunting, but it is trekking poles. You've got to be trying like get an e-bike. And so I'm like, I'm not messing around and I've got like the sheep feet insoles.
Yep. Great. Great insoles.
Great, like I got my system and I'm like
Yep.
crispy boots,
Yep.
the insoles, sheep feet, and then and I usually go with a mid, but sometimes a heavyweight because I want that extra cushion. But when it says with full cushion, the mid or the heavyweight
Yep.
doesn't matter per se. You're still getting
No.
full cushion.
Right. One is so in our lineage of so you've got a lightweight, you've got a midweight with cushion, and then a midweight with full cushion. When we talk about full cushion, we're taking cushioning all the way around, up to that navicular on top of the foot, right, and all the way around, and then we go into our heavyweights, either an OTC or a boot sock, over OTC being over the calf. But yeah, so whether you're needing something like earlier season, like I said, when you're doing a lightweight, it still has cushion, but the microns, the thickness of the sock, are smaller. So the same number of cushionings, same number of terry loops, same 1,441 stitches per square inch. It's just a thinner yarn. So that's why you're getting your lightweight. And then where you put the cushioning. I mean, we've changed stuff over the years, certainly, and built up, in the heel pocket. Because if you're getting heel lift, particularly for the guys that are, in the rubber boot that aren't laced down, they're getting much more heel lift. They're going to have a wear pattern that's different than somebody that's locked tight with their laces. So we've known we've add cushioning there. We add cushioning in the shin for that reason. If it's a rubber boot guy, it's where that weld is in the front of that rubber boot that can be irritating. But also for the guys that are locking down with laces, it's a perfect little cushioning between your lace and your leg.
And what's funny about the over the calf, the OTC, like in hunting, it's over the counter. That's how you buy it for permit.
Yes.
When I've seen that on product pages and stuff, I'm like, dude, that is like match made in heaven. Good for that.
Yeah.
That is so sweet. I'm a dork that way. I'm like, I love those double meanings. So
It was funny because this morning I was listening to something that said they were talking about OTR. And in my world, it's over the road trucking, right? So that's kind of the long haulers. This guy was talking about on the rocks. So he was talking about cocktails. I was like,
oh my gosh.
okay. So I got a new acronym of on the rocks, which I had never heard. But
That's funny. I
yeah.
love too. It says still made in Vermont. When did you update that? Is that recent?
Well, it's interesting. No, that one's been for a while. There are some weird parts of whether we can say made in America when it's sourced with yarn from around the globe. So now to be able to say made in America, we have to actually add that other, in our litigious world that we're in, people have taken exception to saying that because if the yarn isn't domestic, and our government socks, they are domestic. It is domestic yarn. It has to be from the Berry Amendment. Senator Berry from years ago said that all socks sold to the government have to be from domestic yarn.
Yeah, I just think it's cool that it shows your heritage and
Yeah.
yeah, we're still doing
We're
this.
still doing it. Yeah.
We're still
And
here. I love that.
that's Rick's. He loves. I mean, we like to say still just because it's that one extra word that goes, man, we're still here. The world went offshore, to wherever offshore. We aren't. We're staying here, knit by darn tough people. We still think we knit the best socks, but it's interesting because one of the big one of our sayings, or one of the mantras that are in, and we have a sign of it, more than one, in the mill, is that we've yet to produce our best sock. And so that's where that evolution came. That other sock that you have now, that new one that we just brought out, our line stayed the same for many years, but we learned from what was going on out there, listening to you guys, that in the hunt, for hunters, we needed this new sock. So we're always evolving, and we're looking at all kinds of materials. But yeah, we've yet to knit it, but we're still knitting by the same people. And man, we got people that have been with us 3 generations. Their grandpa's working there. Now the grandson's working there. It's a pretty small state, as you know, population wise. I think we still have more cows than people. It's something like 500,000 people, and I think we have more than that in cows. But it's a tight community. The mill, we've evolved. We were in 1 mill, now we're in 2.5 mills, because we keep growing. But you touched on it a minute ago that do we expand in other things, and that goes for our where you can buy them as well. We still don't, we like where we are with who we sell. We sell to the core people. We're not out there in places that we shouldn't be, particularly with the hunt line. So
I love it. And where do you kind of steer people? I mean, darntough.com. What other? I mean,
both,
you guys are so
because we could not be where we are without our retailers.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's kind of what they took a flyer on us 15 years ago, 20 years ago, to say, yeah, we've never heard of you, but we had an amazing, great group of salespeople that have been with us for a long time. Many of them have been with us from the start, which doesn't happen in the wholesale world. Usually that changes a lot, but we have like 6 territories that they've been with us from the beginning. So we couldn't be there without our retailers. Do we sell direct? Yes. But who doesn't? But our retailers are the ones that are the heart and soul of what we're doing. And that's where we learn too, because they're telling us, look, we're getting people walking in off the street. They're saying we need this, right? And it's funny because you mentioned crispy. I was going to say crispy, but we see that as, when you're seeing that on the floor, or the guys in those, that's serious. I mean, that's a freaking serious hiking boot, but it's made for hunting, right? And it's like, you guys are the ones that are proving it, and what we're trying to learn from.
Yeah, they are the most serious, and there's a lot of good boots out there.
There are.
When I flipped over to crispy, I was like, whoa, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And same with Darn Tough. I think people slip it on and they're like, oh, I had no idea it could be this good.
You get that, and you get that, like, oh, there is a difference.
Yes.
And I think you said it more than once. You said system, and that's kind of where we'd like to work on is are we a piece of equipment? Yes. Can you work it with, your boots and your socks have to work together. If your boots are too tight, you're now, like we talked about before, you're now cutting off not only the circulation, but you're also crushing the terry loops. Now, your terry loops are there not just for comfort, but they're also for warmth, because those terry loops are holding that dead air space. And so that's, your feet are making heat, and it's keeping that heat in those dead air spaces. If you crush all those by a really tight boot, then you're kind of doing the exact opposite of what it's made for, particularly in the cold weather sock, which is, again, there are guys that have 2 sets of boots. They have the early season boots. Not only are they less insulated from the boot side, but they're also a different kind of a size. And then when you go to our extra heavy, if you're sitting in a tree stand or a duck blind, and not moving, you need a little warmer sock, because you're not getting that. You guys all know when you're on the tree stand and you're stomping your feet, which is what you don't want to do in a tree stand, right? Because
Sure.
They know where you're coming from. But that's why we need that thicker sock, not just for comfort And the warmth doesn't come from the thickness, it comes from the dead airspace that it's collecting.
Well, and Crispy probably wouldn't appreciate me saying this, but there are people out there with 3 to 4 boots, and they're like, "This is my early season
Yep.
boot, my
Yep.
mid, and my." But I'll tell you what, if you have a good system, I've gotten down to one boot that I just really, really like, and now I'm playing with my socks, and I'm not having to be like, "Well, now I've got my late season boot." If your feet are warm in your early season or mid season boot because you figured out your sock system, I just saved you $400, so you're welcome. Um,
And
and
footbeds are that third component.
sure, yeah.
And that's a big deal too. I mean, that, again, when you talk about the three working together, your
Yeah.
sock, your footbed, and not to say the Crispy doesn't come with a good footbed, but if you have, if you're pronating, if you're supinating, whatever that is, that you need that footbed because you're walking so much that, yeah, I think that's probably that third accessory that matters.
Yeah. And then to kind of close things out here, so what's a good tip? Hunter's been out for 3 or 4 days and they're in the same pair of socks. There's like, you know what? I'm all in. Is there, if they're by a creek, would you ever recommend like dip them in the creek, rinse them out, let them dry?
100%. And they'll, they're going to wick quickly. They're not going to, that cotton sock will be wet for a while.
Yeah.
But you need it overnight, right? But we've all been there when you step into, and you're into a creek and you're like, well, there goes that because now your boots are wet and your socks are wet. That's the beauty of merino is even if you do keep going, they're going to eventually keep you warmer
Yeah.
and wick that out. But yeah, 100%. Dip them in the water. We get that all the time from the guys that walk like they walk the Appalachian Trail, and they'll do it in 3 pair of socks. So they rotate them, and at night they'll dip them in the whatever, or the CDT, or the Continental Divide, or the PCT, where we pretty much own all of those trails as well as far as users. But for that same reason, it's the durability.
Yeah.
They can't get, you can't be out there that long, or on a hunt, in Alaska, in wherever, where you're not coming back to, you're not coming back to a town. You may get back to base camp, but you can't. It's all about weight and how much you're humping in. So that's where you can get away with a couple pair of socks and be done and rotate them.
So yeah, if you're out there, don't be afraid to dip them. Plan ahead. You're not going to do a stock in 5 minutes, but that's something I've done. And also too, if you're on the fence about merino as a base layer or a bottom, try the sock first. Like if you're just dipping into this and you're like, dude, I'm a cotton jeans, whatever, or synthetic, start with the socks, see what you like, see how they function, and then you'll be like, okay, I'm ready to go head to toe. So you're probably doing a lot of work for the base layer companies because people are like,
We
yeah,
are.
let me try merino.
Yep.
I've heard of it, but I can't go full head to toe yet. So that is you guys are doing the good work
Well,
for
and it's not
others.
just even within socks. I'd love to have them all wearing, darn tough, but just getting into merino and out of cotton, go with whomever you have, right? And I'm not trying to plug anybody else because we knit differently, but just get out of the cotton and get out of the jeans. And dude, you'll get a smile on your face. You know the deal. You put those on, you
Yeah.
go, wow, there is a difference, particularly after that first day, and your feet don't hurt. They're not cold. We find that all the time in the work side because we do a really cool work line as well. And when I talk work, it's more of like the guys walking walls or walking I-beams,
Yeah.
right? And for them, it's comfort and safety because if you're up in a bucket as a lineman for all day, you're going to worry less about your feet and worry more about finishing the job right.
Yeah. No,
So
that's so
they
true.
all
It's like do it right. You don't have to think
yeah.
about it. That's awesome.
And that's again that's the fun of what we do, and that thing of saying we took something from a new innovation or something or a new okay, we need to do it differently because of we put this one, you'll appreciate it, from the ski side. We learned from the special ops community, which I have to use those words specifically. They wanted like this chimney coming out of the back of their sock because it was their jungle sock. And I was like, well, that's cool. And they actually, we learned from them, they wanted this mesh up the back of the leg for that reason. I took it to, what about the guys that are skinning, right? And they're going into walk mode with their ski boots, and they're working hard going uphill, and they go into walk mode with their ski boots, which actually in walk mode, as you know, it opens up. So we now have a backcountry sock that has that same chimney effect, that again, we learned from them. And we're like, wow, we can put that in that sock because you need that evaporation. You need that chimney to keep yourself dry. And those guys that are skinning and working their butts off going uphill. So it goes back to like, that's the fun part. It's like taking an innovation and saying, how can we apply it to this? Why do shin pads matter? How much cushioning do you need? Where do you put the cushioning? That's, it's funny because there's times I sit there and go, it's just socks. And then I turn around and go, man, it's not. This is a piece of equipment that is strategic and it can make or break your day for sure.
You're still not there yet. I love it.
No, we've yet to produce it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Very much hunters and even the community side of it, how you are listening to the community coming in. Hunters are very much that way too. So
yeah,
if you reach out to Darn Tough, your little idea or innovation might be in that next sock, and that's cool. How fast do you guys work off of that? Like, if you find something like, oh man, we've heard this, it's evidence. How fast do you turn on that?
Well, the problem now is not the problem. The challenge is that we have to make sure that we're not doing DNR, right? We're doing R&D, so we really need to test it because we've had some ideas, and then we knew it worked, but we didn't put enough time into it. It never failed, but there was tweaks we could have done first. So we have to make sure. So the testing is the hard part. And dude, we send it out to hunters all the time. Like, you go tell me. I've got some really good friends in Vermont that are nasty hunters. They're out there all the time, whether it's black powder, which just ended, to bow, and they're on my test team. And they're like, no, this idea didn't work, or this idea didn't work. It's fun to watch and it's fun to evolve.
That's awesome. Well, again, for those tuning in, and thank you so much for coming on, Mark. And it's cool to get the background of Merino, a little bit of history, but also it's just a key piece of gear. And it's like, yeah, go buy that new bow, go buy those arrows. That's fun and all, but your feet are number one. And so thank you for that. So 4 pairs of socks. I'm going to find some other swag. You're going to get a first generation Bowhunter t-shirt. We're going to kit you up on this giveaway. So big thanks to Darn Tough for sponsoring this. And you'll find out how to enter. You're going to go to huntworks.com. That's where the podcast is hosted. Drop in your email. Super simple. And then write a review for extra entry on Apple Podcasts. So make sure to subscribe, share this with a friend. If this is hitting home for you, you're liking what you're here, drop that in that review and you'll get an extra entry. And we are super stoked to pass these out to one lucky winner. But if you don't win, that's okay. You're going to find these socks almost anywhere, and you can check out Darn Tough on where to buy those and go support those retailers in Hunt and stoke them out. So thank you so much, Mark. Really appreciate having you on. And
dude, awesome. This has been fun, Adam. And I would tell your listeners, too, if they have ideas, absolutely send them to you. You know where I am. And we love that stuff because you guys are the guys, you are the R&D. So.
For sure. And you can reach me, Adam_Buchanan on Instagram. So drop me a line. And if you've got any questions about hunting or systems, we talked about insults a little bit. We talked about boots. These are systems. These are processes. So don't just, whatever, I'm borrowing some boots, or, I want to go light on boots and socks and not really care. This is where you need to invest. And then you can stay out a little bit longer. You'll have more comfort out there. And hey, if you're like me, you just had double knee surgery, you got to take care of your body, man. You need that extra cushion. So.
Especially that deer or whatever that you just hit at dusk, and now you're trying to find it.
For sure.
And you're like, and you're doing a lot of walking. A buddy of mine was in Missouri last week, and he was bow hunting, and he was 2 weeks ago, whenever it was GOA, maybe it's a little bit further, but he shot and he knew he had it, and but he couldn't find it till the next morning. So, but he did a lot of walking, so
Yeah,
that's where you need that system.
that is hunting. It's like you're not there yet. You're just not.
That's awesome.
So it's a never-ending journey. So, well, thanks so much.
Adam, thank you.
All right.
All right, appreciate it, pal.
See ya.
Bye.